Hello everyone, Zelrant here, and for today's video on Girls Frontline 2, we're going to be taking a look at Alva's kit. Now, she has been out for about a week on the CN side, but they just got around to updating the spreadsheet yesterday, and so thought we'd go over it right now. One of the big things I've heard on Alva, and kind of looking at her kit here and there piecemeal, is that she is the savior of the Ice Team. She elevates their ability to do a lot of damage within her kit, and is able to do a lot of damage herself. And the nice thing is, she is not like a lot of the more recent units, needing very much investment in her. You can do quite well with her just getting one copy of her. So let's go ahead and take a look at her kit here. Now we'll start with the passive like I always do here. So on the passive, increases shield amount applied by allies by 30%. This is huge as we get farther into her kit here. But they already have massive sustain if you think of Suomi's shields. And so now it's getting a 30% buff to how much it's actually giving out. And then when you look here, when allies gain a shield, the shield is converted into Frostward Barrier. She basically makes all shields on the field that is given to allies turn into this Frostward Barrier, which basically functions the same, except now it has some more additional benefits to it. So it's considered a shield, absorption equal to 200% of Alva's initial attack. When the holder deals a freeze damage for every 1,000 shield HP held, increases damage dealt by 1.5%. So you gotta think, these bulky shields that you're putting out there is now also giving a damage increase. And you got then that's all Ice does, is throw shields around it, like most of the units. We got Macchiato, Suomi, Alva will be able to put shields out there. So really nice way to add a nice damage boost overall to your team. And then when the holder receives damage, applies 1 stack of Frozen. So now you're getting a lot of CC out there, which can be very good in, say, maybe the new EX modes, where you might have a mode where that CC is going to be very, very valuable. So you have that, and the effect is treated as Frost Barrier. This is a freeze type effect and cannot be dispelled, so that's really nice right there. So that's the first part regarding the shields, and then you have this part with increases Confectance Index by 3 points and gains 1 stack of Combat Preparation. Now, Combat Preparation is a unique little buff to Alva that is tied to another part of her kit here. Just know that you want to accumulate stacks of that over time, so it's good. You get 1 stack per turn here. After launching an Interception, which she does interceptions just like Macchiato, increases Confectance Index by 1 point. Okay, so that's another way to get Confectance Index for her. Now, let's go up to her, basically her skills up here. Basic attack, nothing special. She doesn't have anything really tied to the basic attack. You have her first skill, Heart of the Snow Wolf. Stability damage 2, cooldown 2 turns, Confectance Index cost 0. Enters into support mode for 3 rounds, which support mode is where she can do the interceptions. Increases freeze damage dealt by allies. That's the big part. Freeze damage dealt by allies towards enemies with a shield. Now, this is part of her kit here. We'll get into it in her other skill. But she can apply a special type of shield cost Frost Loom down here, which is considered a shield, which will trigger this. So increases their damage by 20%, increases crit rate by 20%. That's huge. So you got to think, Macchiato, if you have your Macchiato built right, you're pretty much going to 100% crit every time now with this. She already was close to 100% of the time. This pretty much guarantees it. And now you're also applying this to Alva and everybody else on the Ice Team. Before enemies within an 8-tile radius performs an active attack, launches an interception, dealing freeze damage. So this is her interception. Equivalent to 60% attack or stability damage, and converts 20% of the damage dealt into a Frostward Barrier for allies. So you're adding on to the shields of the allies, which, as you know, that shield is giving them more damage as you have higher HP held. So that is quite massive right there. So really good skill. This one, pretty much whenever it's available, you're going to want to cast this skill. Then you have the skill 2 here. This is part of where Confectance Index is kind of getting tied. Confectance Index cost of 1, cooldown 0, no stability damage. Select an empty tile with an 8-tile radius, consumes all Confectance Index, and for each Confectance Index consumed, deals AoE freeze damage equivalent to 15% attack and 1 stability damage to all enemies within a 4-tile radius. That's nice. And then summons the Cryogenic Stinger for 3 rounds. And so this is where you're going to start applying that Frost Loom here. So it applies this Cryogenic Stinger, and it does a bunch of other stuff too. Applies Hypothermia to all enemies within a 4-tile radius before the enemies within range are attacked. If the enemy does not have Frost Loom, converts a portion of its HP equivalent to 500% of Alva's attack into Frost Loom. And so this is putting that Frost Loom shield on them, which is a special shield, can coexist with other shields, but it's not consumed first. When Frostloom is broken, applies Frostbite and Dismay for 2 turns. And so now you're just like freezing. Like this is just massive CC on them. But also the shield is there to trigger up these other skills on the top here. So really nice right there. This can only reduce HP to a minimum of 1, so it can't kill itself when it applies this. And then the triggers once per enemy per round. And only one cryogenic stinger can exist when an enemy within range has its shield broken. If the enemy is within an 8-tile radius of Alva, Alva will not perform an attack on them. So you're going to want to keep her within range of all these enemies that you have the stinger on. Because that shield, you're going to break it. She's going to then counterattack to do some massive damage because it's 40% of that HP of that shield. So really nice right there on the cryogenic stinger. And then the second part here, and this is what you're basically going to tie the skill to, is if she has 3 stacks of combat preparation. So whenever she gets 3 stacks of it, you're going to want to use this skill. Consumes 3 stacks, and then she gets extra command, meaning she can go again right after using it. So she can lead into her skill 1 or her ultimate, or even basic if that's all you can have available at the time. So really nice right there. Then you have her ult, Requiem of the Snowfield, ultimate / targeted. If selects an enemy target with 8 tiles, consumes all Confectance Index. For each Confectance Index consumed, it deals freeze damage equivalent to 30% attack and 1 stability damage to it. Now this doesn't have a cooldown, so you can technically kind of spam this because you're getting a lot of Confectance Index every turn. And you can kind of get the feeling for that with these two. You are able to get a lot of Confectance Index through her interception, and then she gets 3 points per turn anyway. So you can kind of think of these as almost being like alternating skills depending on your needs. So just a nice big damage attack there on the ultimate. And that's pretty much it there on the main parts of the kit. Now let's look at her fixed keys, because this is where you can kind of adjust how things work a little bit. Fixed key 1, when Frostloom is applied to enemies within a 4-tile radius of the cryogenic stinger, generates frost tiles, so you can get frost tiles on the ground if you want doing this quite easily. Fixed key 2, this is going to be a very important one, especially like for Gunsmoke. At start of battle, increases Confectance Index by 3 and 3 stacks of combat preparation. So you can do her skill 2 and then immediately lead into her skill 1 or going into her ultimate with this one. Most likely her skill 1 because you're burning all of your Confectance Index whether you use skill 2 or ultimate. So that's really nice right there. Fixed key 3 decreases stability damage received for allies with Frostward Barrier by 1 point. This is like a very tanky one here because you're going to pretty much have that on them at all times with the ice team because you have so many ways to get shields. So now they're going to take less stability damage. So a very tanky one. Probably we'll have to kind of see how it works in like Gunsmoke's never really a problem. So probably more for the EX mode than anything there. Fixed key 4, for each stack of combat preparation consumed, increases attack by 3% up to 18%. So you can really rack up these stacks if you want and give yourself a nice little boost here with fixed key 4. Requiem of the Snowfield, before skill usage, dispels 2 buffs from the target. So really nice right there. This can make it where she has now basically a dispel. Situational, but very good situational. And then fixed key 6 increases stability damage taken by enemies with a 4-tile radius. So really nice there to break for the stability damage. Put this, especially on like Gunsmoke, you put this on there. Once he's down, now you're doing quite a bit more stability damage to the enemy. And then you have our Affinity key, attack, HP, crit damage. Not my favorite ones. I prefer the attack. The other ones that attack, crit. Then you have the common key, attack plus 5%, increases phase damage towards enemies with shield by 10%. This is very specific to the ice team, but I could see this being useful on pretty much anyone in the team because she's going to actively put the shield on the enemies. And then when she puts it on there, anybody that's in her team can take advantage of this. So I could see this being like a Macchiato one if she's still like your main core damage dealer. So nice little key there, but it's very tied to the ice team. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the dupes here. Big thing with her is the dupes they're nice, but she's a complete package. V0 can do everything you need to really bring the ice team up back from the, as someone said, back from the grave. Her kit by itself at V0 is enough to carry the ice team back into the meta. But let's just go ahead and take, and another thing is, from what I've heard is when it comes to dupes, her dupes help Robella out a lot, but you're better off investing in Robella first. So get Robella, if you're going to go crazy on ice team, you want to invest in the dupes on Robella all the way to V6 before you think about investing in dupes on Alva. Well, let's just take a look at them now, just in case you want to potentially invest in her if she's like one of your favorite characters. So you have upgrade 1 for V1 on Frost Echo. Increases damage multiplier to 20% if Alva has 3 stacks of combat preparation after skill use. Enter support mode for 3 rounds. Duration decreases at the end of the current round and increases Confectance Index by 6 points. So just a nice little big damage increase there. If you wanted to invest in her at all in terms of getting some damage, that might be a stopping point for some. But you have V2, Requiem of the Snowfield. Increases damage multiplier to 40% from that, and after skill usage, increases Confectance Index by 1 point for all freeze units. Not just herself, all freeze units. And this is where I think you're starting to help Robella. I can't remember Robella's kit very well, but I think she needs, like, this is just like an extra help to her. You almost can think of it like a Sprinfield, but for Robella. And that Sprinfield can add Confectance Index to Tololo to really help her out. You see the same thing with this V2. Not necessary, though. Upgrade 3 increases shield amount applied by allies now to 50%. It's tied to their damage, so a damage increase overall across the ice team here. New effect is added for Frostward Barrier. When the holder deals freeze damage for every 1000 shield, crit damage is now increased. And remember, she's already giving crit rate. So they're going to be critting more often, so that's going to be huge right there. Heart of the Snow Wolf increases the conversion rate of Frostward Barrier dealt by interception during support mode by 30%. In support mode, 20% of the damage dealt by Requiem of the Snowfield is converted into Frostward Barrier for all allies. So just more shield overall, so a little bit more damage overall from having more shield. Really nice, and just more tankiness overall as well, tied to it. V5 enhances the effects of Cryogenic Stinger, increases the damage multiplier to 60% of the shield HP. A nice little bit of damage increase, and enhances the effects of Hypothermia. So Hypothermia now increases freeze damage received by 40%, so another damage increase overall to the ice team. And then V6 increases the absorption amount of Frostward Barrier to 300% of Alva's attack. Even more tankiness. And having those shields, the higher they are, the more damage they're doing, is just tied to that 1000 HP. When the holder deals freeze damage for every 1000 HP held, the damage increase and crit damage increase are double. Now you're getting double. So V6 is doubling the damage they do from all that extra shield they have. So massive increase on ice damage across the board. And that is her dupes. Take a look at her weapon here. Now, if you wanted to invest in her, the weapon actually is one of the weapons you'd want to get before you start investing in dupes, because it is a very good support one, as we've seen with a lot of the support characters. So it has, if they're at full HP at the end of action, they gain a random buff lasting 1 turn. You see that on a lot of guns. But the big parts are right here. When allies deal freeze damage, increases crit damage by 10% all the way up to 20 if you max dupe it. And when the holder has a shield, which on the ice team they're going to have a shield, increases damage dealt by 10 all the way up to 20% of max dupes. And then you have the imprint skill, which is really tied if it's her doing it where she does more damage to the geared group or whatever. Nothing crazy there. And that is her entire kit. You can actually see they've added, I don't think they do this with all the characters, but the suggested path of investment if you're going to want to invest in her. So weapon first, then they say go to V2 is a good breakpoint, and then only the V6 is a breakpoint. That's when you have the most value coming out of the dupes. But like I said, she is one of the few in the last ones where she's just crazy good right out of the gate at V0. I've heard people mention her. She's the Sprinfield of the ice team, which makes sense because she's elevating the entire ice team's damage and quite substantially at V0. And you're better off investing in the dupes elsewhere, like Robella versus hers. So unless you're heavily investing in wailing on the ice team, I wouldn't worry too much about her dupes. At best, just get her weapon because you're getting a nice little damage increase to freeze team overall, as well as crit damage there. And so overall, it looks really good. Definitely will be getting her. It'll be great since I have V1 Macchiato, got my V1 Suomi, got the whole ice team, got Dush. We'll be getting Robella. And so we'll see how she works when she eventually comes out for us on Global. It is nice that she is going to only need V0, because right now, if you think about it on the Global side, Ice was like our main units that came out first for us. And so I think they're the heavily invested for most people, including free-to-play. I think most free-to-plays got like a V1 Macchiato. They got V1 Suomi. Potentially pulled Dush, I'm not sure. Robella will come out at some point. You can pull over her. And then you'll have her to kind of elevate the entire team. I think she's going to be a very good unit for everybody, including free-to-play going into the future. Really like what I see here. But that's pretty much it. Just let me know what you think about her kit and if you plan on pulling her when she comes out for Global. But yeah, if you like my content, if you can like, comment, subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.